Before we dive into this story that's sure to move you, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. It might seem like a small thing, but that simple action makes a huge difference. It's what keeps this channel going and gives me the strength to keep bringing these stories to you. Now take a deep breath, because what comes next is powerful. What if I told you that Donald Trump's most controversial statements about China aren't just political noise, but part of a much bigger game? While the media focuses on the insults, the real message might be hiding in plain sight. From trade wars to technology bans, there's a pattern. And it all leads to one chilling possibility, that a silent war is already underway, and you're caught in the middle. In this video, we're going to uncover what no one is telling you about Trump, China, and the battle that's shaping the future of the world. Stick with me, because once you see it, you can't unsee it. Flashback to 2018. Trump slaps billions in tariffs on Chinese goods. Headlines explode. Trade war begins. But what was really behind it? Some say it was about economics. Others say it was about control. And Trump? He kept saying one thing over and over again. They've been taking advantage of us for years. Mainstream media laughed it off. But think about it. What if those tariffs weren't just punishment? What if they were warnings? What if Trump was signaling something deeper, something the rest of the world refused to hear? Let's rewind even further. During his 2016 campaign, Trump mentioned China in nearly every rally, not just once or twice, dozens of times. They're stealing our jobs. They're manipulating our currency. They're spying on us. It sounded aggressive. It sounded paranoid. But what if it was accurate? Fast forward to today. U.S. officials admit China has conducted cyber espionage on a massive scale, data breaches, intellectual property theft, surveillance through social media apps. Suddenly, Trump's rants don't sound so crazy. They sound like foreshadowing. Behind the scenes, leaked reports from intelligence agencies show growing concern over China's influence in the U.S., not just economically, but digitally, politically, and culturally. Think about TikTok, used by millions of Americans, or Chinese-owned farmland near U.S. military bases, or university partnerships funded by foreign cash. Why would China want so many hands inside American systems? And why was Trump one of the only world leaders willing to call it out, publicly and repeatedly? Could it be that he saw what others refused to acknowledge? That the enemy wasn't at the gate? It was already inside? Now let's talk technology. Trump's administration placed massive restrictions on Huawei, one of China's largest tech giants. The reason? National security threats. But mainstream media painted it as political theater. Still, behind closed doors, cybersecurity experts were raising red flags. Huawei's infrastructure could allow backdoor access to global communications. Imagine a foreign power having the ability to tap into networks, monitor conversations, or even shut down systems remotely. Trump didn't just block them, he tried to rally allies to do the same. Was he overreacting, or was he the only one reacting at all? Meanwhile, Trump's push to ban TikTok wasn't just about viral dances. It was about data. Millions of users. Every scroll, every like, every message, stored on servers potentially accessible by the Chinese government. It's a Trojan horse, one cybersecurity analyst said. And yet, the public protested. Free speech, government overreach. But buried in leaked internal memos, concerns about psychological influence and surveillance kept surfacing. Was TikTok just a social app or a digital weapon disguised as entertainment? Trump may have sounded dramatic, but what if he was just ahead of the curve? Then came the pandemic, and with it, Trump's most explosive claim yet, calling COVID-19 the China virus. Critics called it racist, inflammatory, reckless. But quietly, investigations began. Lab leaks, data suppression, silenced whistleblowers. Suddenly, the question wasn't, is Trump exaggerating? It became, what does he know that we don't? Intelligence reports hinted at classified evidence. Still, the media turned its back. But Trump kept talking, kept pointing, kept accusing. What if he wasn't trying to stir hatred, but send a message? What if he was sounding the alarm before the fire could spread? Now consider this. If the global stage is a chessboard, then China is playing a long strategic game. Trade, tech, territory, they're advancing in every direction. Trump didn't just push back, he disrupted the play entirely. He ripped up deals, challenged NATO to take China seriously, forced U.S. companies to reconsider foreign dependencies. People said he was erratic. But what if his unpredictability was the strategy? In warfare, confusion can be a weapon. And in geopolitics, being loud can force hidden moves into the light. Trump may have caused chaos, but maybe that was the point. Let's look at the South China Sea, a flashpoint ignored by most, but not by Trump. While other leaders issued statements, Trump sent warships. He increased U.S. naval presence and challenged China's illegal claims on disputed waters. Critics warned of escalation, but satellite images revealed Chinese military bases being built on artificial islands, fighter jets, missile systems, radar towers. This wasn't just defense, it was expansion. Trump wasn't just reacting, he was countering. The message was clear. America wouldn't surrender the seas. Was it reckless, or was it the only move left on the board? At the same time, Trump ramped up support for Taiwan. Arms deals, official visits, stronger diplomatic ties. Beijing warned of consequences. Playing with fire, they said. But Trump kept going. Why? Because Taiwan is more than just an island. It's a symbol of resistance, a democratic thorn in China's authoritarian side. Some say Trump's bold support was reckless, endangering peace. Others say it was a calculated stand for freedom in a region slowly being swallowed. One misstep could trigger war, but Trump never blinked. Was it courage or something more strategic? Beyond the politics and posturing lies a chilling possibility. What if all of this was never about trade or tweets, but about preparation? A slow, invisible build-up to something bigger. Analysts call it gray zone warfare. No bombs, no headlines, just influence, infiltration, and quiet conquest. Trump's every move, from tariffs to tech bans, may have been his way of building a firewall, not just for the economy, but for democracy itself. And maybe he knew time was running out, that if he didn't act loudly, no one else would act at all. But here's the twist. While Trump fought back externally, forces within were working against him. Leaked memos show pushback from diplomats, tech executives, and even intelligence officials. Some feared economic fallout, others feared diplomatic collapse. But a few quietly admitted they feared the truth, that Trump's warnings might be valid, that ignoring them could lead to disaster. If that's true, then this wasn't just a clash of ideologies. It was a war of realities. And in that war, the loudest voice became the most dangerous weapon of all. Let's not forget the economy. Trump's America First policy wasn't just nationalism. It was insulation. He pushed for reshoring factories, reducing reliance on Chinese supply chains, and bringing critical industries back home. Critics warned of rising costs. But then came global shortages, semiconductors, medical supplies, even basic goods. Suddenly, dependence on China became a liability. Trump had tried to sever the cord before it snapped. Was it foresight or just lucky timing? Either way, the warning signs were there, and he had been shouting them all along. Media outlets called it paranoia. He's exaggerating, they said. He's fear-mongering. But one by one, headlines began to shift. China's influence in Hollywood. Chinese drones collecting U.S. data. Chinese surveillance balloons. Each new revelation sounded eerily familiar, like an echo of Trump's old speeches. The same speeches the press once mocked. Were they finally catching up? Or were they simply forced to see what was now undeniable? When the line between conspiracy and reality blurs, the question isn't what's true, but why we didn't listen sooner. Then there's the question no one dares to ask out loud. What if Trump wasn't the threat, but the barrier? What if his chaos was the one thing disrupting a slow, silent surrender? After all, it's easier to dismantle resistance when the world is asleep. Trump wasn't quiet. He wasn't polite. But maybe that was the only language the world would notice. In a game of shadows, maybe his loudness was the flair. Maybe he was trying to wake people up before the lights went out completely. Now we sit in 2025, and tensions are higher than ever. Military exercises, tech bans, trade threats. But something feels different now. There's a shift in tone, from denial to alarm. Political figures who once dismissed Trump's warnings are now echoing them. Intelligence reports once buried are being declassified, and voters, once divided by personality, are now united by fear. Fear that maybe the clock is closer to midnight than we thought, and that the one man who saw it coming might have been the one we refused to hear. Some believe Trump exaggerated everything for attention. But ask yourself, what would he gain by making China his biggest enemy? He risked global backlash, economic fallout, and political isolation. Allies distanced themselves, CEOs pushed back, media tore him apart. And yet, he kept going, again and again, over and over. That doesn't sound like politics. That sounds like obsession. Or maybe it sounds like someone who saw the storm before the first drop of rain. Someone who chose to be the warning siren even if everyone else chose to cover their ears. Meanwhile, China kept playing the long game, expanding its Belt and Road Initiative, buying influence in Africa, South America, and even in Western democracies, funding infrastructure, offering loans, securing ports. It looked like generosity, but beneath the surface, dependency grew. Trump called it out, warned about debt traps and hidden agendas. He was laughed at. Fear tactics, they said. But today, some of those nations are struggling to repay. And China? It's taking control of key assets piece by piece. Who's laughing now? But here's where it gets personal. This isn't just about politicians and borders. It's about your data, your voice, your choices. China's reach extends into the apps you use, the websites you visit, even the news you read. Algorithms shaped in Beijing can shape opinions in Boston, and Trump saw that. When he tried to limit these tools, people said he was censoring freedom. But maybe, just maybe, he was fighting for it. Because in today's world, influence isn't taken by force. It's fed to you one swipe at a time. Now imagine this, a world where supply chains collapse, your tech stops working, your economy shudders, and you wonder how we got here. The answer? It started with dependence, the kind Trump tried to end. But no one wanted to hear that, until the shelves were empty and the silence got loud. That's the danger of ignoring early warnings. By the time you realize they were right, it's already too late. And Trump? He wasn't asking for applause. He was begging the world to pay attention. Trump's methods were messy. No one denies that. His speeches were unpredictable, his tweets chaotic. But chaos has a strange power. It exposes things hidden in silence. While polished leaders smiled and shook hands with Beijing, Trump broke the script. He forced conversations no one wanted to have. About trade, about tech, about truth. It wasn't always elegant, but maybe that was the point. Diplomacy had failed. Subtlety had failed. So he chose disruption, not because it was popular, but because it was necessary. Sometimes a whisper won't do. You need to break glass to get attention. And then came the media war. Every major outlet seemed focused on tearing down Trump's credibility. Fact-checkers on overdrive. Late-night hosts turning policy into punchlines. But what if that media storm wasn't just bias, but part of the strategy? Distract the public with personality so they ignore the policy. Make him the villain so no one questions the actual threat. And while cameras zoomed in on Trump's temper, China quietly expanded its reach, in tech, in trade, in mines. Who benefited most from Trump's destruction? It might not have been the left. It might have been the East. Now people are starting to ask questions they wouldn't have dared ask 5 years ago. Was Trump right about TikTok? About the WHO? About Huawei? About Taiwan? Each new headline is a thread. And when you pull it, it leads back to something he already said. It's unsettling. Because if he was right about this, what else was dismissed too early? In the rush to reject the man, did we ignore the message? And what if the real danger isn't what Trump exaggerated, but what he couldn't say out loud? This story isn't about taking sides. It's about opening eyes. Because what's happening between the US and China isn't politics anymore. It's a power shift, a global rebalancing. And Trump, for all his flaws, might have been one of the last leaders willing to say the quiet part out loud. He didn't just fight for attention. He fought for warning. And the question now is, did we wait too long to listen? Or is there still time to act? Because if we're already in the middle of a war, it's not the kind fought with guns. It's the kind fought with silence. Let's talk about fear. The fear of being labeled, criticized, canceled. That fear silenced experts, journalists, even politicians. People who privately agreed with Trump's warnings stayed quiet publicly. Why? Because going against the narrative meant risking everything. But silence is expensive. And now that the consequences are becoming undeniable, those same people are starting to speak up, quietly, carefully. But the damage has been done. The early warnings were drowned out by outrage. And the truth? It didn't care about our feelings. It kept marching forward. Trump's legacy will always be controversial. But what if controversy was the only way to disrupt the status quo? He wasn't the polished diplomat. He was the outsider, the disruptor. And disruptors don't follow rules. They break them. Maybe that's why so many people hated him. Not because he was always wrong, but because he made it harder to pretend everything was fine. He didn't just expose problems, he exposed our willingness to ignore them. And that made people uncomfortable, because deep down, we knew he might be onto something. Meanwhile, China has only grown bolder. Their influence stretches into Hollywood, the NBA, even US universities. They don't need to conquer America. They just need to rent it, bit by bit, voice by voice, market by market. And while Americans argue over pronouns and party lines, China focuses on strategy, dominance, and longevity. That's the real danger. The enemy doesn't need to divide us. We're doing it to ourselves. And Trump? He tried to scream over the noise. But maybe the noise was exactly what made us ignore him. Now we're left with a question that haunts every turning point in history. What could we have done differently? What if we had listened? What if we had acted? What if we had looked past the tweets and into the warnings? Because whether you loved Trump or hated him, one thing is becoming impossible to deny. The man saw something coming. He tried to fight it, and we chose not to follow. Now, the fight is at our doorstep, and the only thing louder than Trump's voice is the silence we gave in return. There's a reason why this video exists. It's not to glorify Trump or vilify China. It's to ask the question most people are too afraid to. What if he was right? What if the man we mocked for his tone was actually warning us with truth? What if every chaotic press conference, every heated tweet, every bold move was part of a desperate attempt to stop what's now unfolding? We're watching nations choose sides, supply chains shift, and global tension build. The time for laughing is over. Now we have to listen, whether we like the voice or not. In this moment, we're all witnesses to a historical shift, not because of Trump, but because of what's happening behind him, beneath him, beyond him. China isn't waiting. They're acting, expanding, strategizing. They don't need to invade. They just need us to stay distracted. And maybe, just maybe, Trump tried to shake us awake. But the question now isn't, was he right? It's, what do we do now? Because the clock didn't stop ticking just because we chose to ignore the alarm. And now, it's louder than ever. Whether it's AI dominance, 5G control, or digital currency wars, the battlefield of the future isn't physical. It's invisible. Information, influence, infrastructure. And China is winning ground that can't be taken back easily. Trump understood that this isn't a war of bullets. It's a war of bandwidth, of data, of minds. And while the world debated his words, the enemy advanced. Now the cost of silence is catching up to us. And the bill is bigger than we imagined. So here we are, not at the end, but at the edge, standing between what we ignored and what we still have time to change. Trump wasn't the hero. He wasn't the villain. He was the siren, loud, unwelcome, impossible to ignore. And now that the smoke is rising, we have to decide. Do we keep pretending the fire isn't real? Or do we finally face it before it consumes everything? History won't remember how we felt about Trump. It will remember what we did after the truth echoed through his voice. Some say history repeats itself, others say it rhymes. But what we're seeing now, escalating tension, economic dependence, digital infiltration, isn't history. It's the present, and it's accelerating. Trump may have been loud, flawed, even offensive, but buried in all the chaos was a message too many chose to tune out. He saw the trap being built. He tried to break it. And now that we're inside it, the question isn't how we got here. It's how we get out. The media still debates his tone. Politicians still argue about his legacy. But the truth is out in the open now. Leaked documents, shifting policies, quiet acknowledgments. The world is catching up to the warnings it once dismissed. And while Trump may never get credit for being early, the consequences of ignoring him are becoming clear. You don't have to like the messenger to hear the message. And the message is simple. We waited too long, but it's not too late. That's the final truth. The world is still watching, still moving, still capable of shifting course. But it requires clarity, courage, and an end to the distractions. Whether Trump returns to power or not, the reality he tried to expose is still unfolding. And if we ignore it again, the next warning may not come with words. It may come with consequences we can't reverse. So now it's up to us, not just to react, but to wake up. If you've made it this far, you already know the truth. This isn't about Trump. It's about a global game we've all been pulled into. And the more we understand it, the more power we have to change it. Share this video. Ask the hard questions. Challenge the silence. Because no matter what side you're on, one thing is certain. The game is real. And if we don't pay attention now, we won't get a second chance. If this story moved you in any way, please leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Honestly, every like, every subscription is what keeps this channel breathing. Without your support, it's nearly impossible to keep going. So if you can help, know that this only exists because of you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for staying until the end. I'll see you in the next story.